Hello YouTube, it's me again. Yay for me. So today I want to talk about hookups, threesomes, and common courtesy. But before I get started, there was something that was left out of my last video about tripping balls. So the point of my long rambling story yesterday, and I'll get straight to the point for you, is ladies, don't trip balls for no reason at all. Make sure that if you are going to trip balls and be emotional, there's a good reason behind it. Okay? Now, so I'm going to talk to you a little bit about threesomes. Now, most men are fantasizing about threesomes. They have this fantastical, this is their fantasy, that this is what they want from women. They want to have two women at the same time. Most men. There are some that don't want this, and I have met a very sweet young man that I was talking to about his relationship, and I'm not going to go into who it is or what have you because I want to protect his privacy, but he was telling me that his girlfriend wanted a threesome, and he said no, and as a result of him saying no several times, he ended things with her. But for most men, it is a fantasy. And if you fulfill a man's fantasies, he will give you what you want. So, if your man or, your spouse or your significant other, whomever, wants to do this, it is not a sign that he wants to leave you. It is a sign that he wants to bring you closer. And I know that sounds crazy because it sounded crazy to me, but it's the fact that you would do something like that that's adventurous together. And I mean, as long as it's not a regular occurrence or, he's going off with that girl all the time by himself and you're there, I think that it's okay. All right. So the next thing I want to talk about is hookups and what a woman considers a hookup, or at least what I consider a hookup, and what men consider a hookup. So man considers a hookup for the most part, and again, I'm not putting everybody into a box, but most men consider a hookup like a hot chick comes over and she's like fiery and spicy and sexy. That's a hookup. And then, you have this casual buddy relationship and you can call her anytime. And I personally don't believe in that. I think if you're going to have a hookup, it's a one night stand. And for that, you don't put any effort into it. You don't learn the guy's name. You don't spend any money. You meet him at, the Motel 6. You have the sex and it's like bland. No effort. You don't, put effort into touching or kissing or any of the stuff that's associated with sex. It's like, okay, just do me and we're done. Like, with the few hookups I've done in my life, I've laid back, closed my eyes, and thought about my laundry list. This is the reason to have the hookup for me is I'm bored on a Friday night and I'm single and I don't have anything else to do. My friends are busy, so okay, I'm gonna just hook up with someone. I mean, someone okay, sure, but you're not, friends with them. You don't hang out with them. You don't really shoot the shit a lot. Like, I don't shoot the shit with people who see me naked. It's just not happening. So that to me is a hook up. Now, I don't believe in bed buddies, booty buddies, casual relationships. You're either in a relationship or you're not. I mean, to me, I don't think of casual and relationship in the same sentence, and maybe that makes me a little bit old-fashioned. I'm an old-fashioned kind of girl. If you express emotion with somebody and you want to be with them and you see yourself with them long-term, then that's a relationship. So I wanted to talk about that. And my last topic today is about common courtesy. So common courtesy, I was in the elevator today. Excuse me. I was in the elevator today and there was an older lady and she had a few things in her hands. I held the door open for her. Common courtesy. I walked through the mall today. I had to pick up some shampoo and some random things. And there was an older gentleman and he was trying to get through the door and nobody was holding the door for him. And he had bags in his hand and he had like a walker and everything. And I open the door for him. That is common courtesy. If you see somebody struggling to open the door and you have nothing in your hands, open the door for them. If you're in the grocery line and you have 45, 50 things in your cart and there's somebody behind you with like, a bottle of Coke, let that person go, because they're not going to take that long and they don't want to stand there waiting for you to go through the line. Conversely, if you're at the checkout counter and you've forgotten something, I would excuse myself before I started to ring in my purchases, or I would ring in all of my purchases and go back and find the thing that I forgot and stand in the line again. I don't have her ringing up everything at the end of it and be like, oh shit, I forgot the milk. Hold on a second, and make an entire line of people stand behind you. I think that's stupid. I think it's discourteous to the people that have been waiting so long for you to finish. And I mean, grocery stores, Walmart, I know for a fact, you can walk back through with stuff you've already bought as long as you have your receipt, and everybody gives a receipt, right? Take your receipt. So everybody gives a receipt. You can walk back through the Walmart and you can get something you've forgotten. I mean, I've oftentimes been in a Walmart and had to go back 3 or 4 times to get things because, in Walmart, it's like Wonderland, right? It's like you see everything and you're like, oh, I need that, I need that, I need that. And you forget the thing you came for. So Walmart's like the labyrinth, remember Labyrinth, the movie Labyrinth? Yeah. So I figure that if I'm going to forget something and that's my fault, I'm going to stand in line again. It might seem crazy to you, but that's how it is. I also believe that gentlemen should pull chairs out for ladies and allow them to sit down. I also believe that if there's a lady coming, you should open the door for her. You should be courteous. And I think we can take a lot of lessons from the army. So when I was in St. John's, me and my friend, we're sitting in the parking lot at Tim Hortons, having a coffee, shooting the shit. And there was a bus full of army men. And I mean, that was a good time for us, right? Because he's of the homosexual persuasion. And we enjoyed watching these lovely men jump out of their bus. And I was like, I wonder if they're polite. Because we've talked about manners and stuff. So I wonder if they're very polite young gentlemen. And they were all very young. They couldn't have been, the oldest one had to be about 30, 31 years old. So I walked towards the Tim Hortons and I went to go reach for the door. And I went to go open the door. And one of these fine young men who serves our country and are brave and opened the door for me and said, ma'am, please. And he allowed me to walk through. And every time I walked past one of these young gentlemen inside the Tim Hortons, they'd nod their head and they'd say, ma'am. That's polite. And I don't think that we have that sense of chivalry anymore, as I've said many times. And I don't think we have that sense of propriety when you see a young lady. When you see a young lady coming towards you and the proper way to behave and to say please and thank you. I mean, I monitor calls all day and this is my job. And I monitor American calls. And there are some Americans who are very sweet, and please don't call me a racist. But there are some Americans who don't even know, when you put somebody on hold, let's say, and you say, can you please hold for me? Thank you. They don't do that. It's not part of their language. And I think it's because we're Canadians and we're taught to be polite and say please and thank you when somebody does something for me. But now I see a generation that doesn't even say please and thank you. I opened the door for a young man and a young woman yesterday to come into the building that I'm working in. And neither of them said thank you. I'm sorry, but say thank you. Like,